Good afternoon. Thank you for coming. Those of you who don't know me, I think most of you do. I'm Commissioner John Hillock from Wallowa County, and I'd like to lead you in the Pledge of Allegiance right now. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to recognize the elected officials. So if you're an elected official, would you stand up? And tribal leaders as well. Some of them are filtering in the room. Is there any in the crowd? There you go. Okay. Just stand up again. Just identify yourself, please.
I'm Sue Coleman. I'm on the Wallowa County Healthcare.
Nikolai D. Wallowa County Healthcare.
Sheriff.
Ryan Moody, Sheriff. Gary Helms, Mayor of Wallowa. Ito Maswadi, Dokatip, Wheel. My name is Shannon Wheeler. I serve as the chairman for the Nez Perce Tribe.
Lisa Collier, Wallowa County Commissioner.
Cody Latham, Mayor of Enterprise. Thank
you. There'll be some announcements after the meeting, so if you'd stick around for a minute. It's always a pleasure to introduce Senator Merkley. Jeff has been called the Roots and Boots Senator because of his deep Oregon roots and his boots on the ground, traveling to meet with Oregonians in every corner of the state. Born in southern Oregon, timber town of Myrtle Creek, Jeff spent his early years in Douglas County, where his father worked as a millwright, the mechanic who keeps the mill machinery running. He learned the ropes of public policy as an intern for Oregon Senator Mark Hatfield, and later worked on national security issues for the Secretary of Defense. But if Jeff's experience leading housing nonprofits here in Oregon, including a chapter of Habitat for Humanity that kick-started his call to public service in Oregon. Jeff was elected to the Oregon House in 1998 and became House Speaker in 2007. 2 years later, he was sworn into the same U.S. Senate seat once held by Hatfield. In the Senate, he focused on building the four foundations for the success of working families, good health, care, quality education, decent affordable housing, and good paying jobs. This year's Jeff took over the top Democratic spot on the Senate Budget Committee, where he'll fight for working people and for tax fairness in American families. He's also the only member of the Oregon delegation serving on the powerful Appropriations Committee, where he brings an Oregon perspective to important federal funding decisions. This includes being at the forefront of securing funding for wildfire prevention and recovery as the top Democrat serving on the Interior Appropriations Subcommittee. Jeff holds a town hall in every Oregon county every year. This is Jeff's 25th town hall this year and his 601st overall town hall, and we're happy to have him with us. Please join me in welcoming Roots and Boots Senator for Oregon, Jeff Merkley.
Well, thank you so much, Commissioner, and thanks to all of you for coming out on this beautiful day, and such an important time in our country to have citizens deeply engaged. At the start of every town hall, I like to shed a light on some community group that's doing important work in the community, and today we're going to shine that light on the Winding Waters and Wallowa Valley Center for Wellness, and I think that Shantae Jett is here, and Nick Powers. Come on up. The two healthcare providers are integrated at the new Hearts for Health facility in Enterprise, and clients receive dental, mental health, medical, therapeutic care all under one roof. And maybe you can tell us a little bit more about the services, health services, and wellness you're bringing to the community.
Sure, thank you so much, Senator. And I'd like to invite Dan Grigg up here with us. He's the CEO of Wallowa Memorial Hospital, and we couldn't do this here without him. And I just wanted to read a little bit from my notes so I don't forget anything here. But I am so proud to receive this award together with my partners today, Nick and Dan. You know, we have truly built a collaboration of care model that is second to none in this county. This partnership did not happen overnight. It was hours and years of effort to really think about how to break down silos, build trust, and put systems in place that truly center around the person receiving care. And together, we ensure that when a person reaches out for help, whether it's through a primary care visit, a behavioral health visit, or a stay in the hospital, that we have a full team ready to support them whenever they need it through collaboration, coordination, and care across all systems. So thank you to my partners, and hand it off to you.
Thank you, Shantae, and thank you, Senator Merkley. I think, yeah, what we're doing here in Wallowa County, I hope can serve as an example for the state and the nation, and you can bring some of that message, because it's hard work, but we've done really great things in a really tiny community, and I think that could be replicated to many other places with our example.
So I'm relatively new to Wallowa County and just so impressed with what we have here. It's truly amazing what's been built here over the years, and it's an honor to be part of that. And a lot of the credit goes to you as our community. The support you give us, it's unparalleled. So thank you.
So just as a way of saying job well done in the Hearts for Health partnership and collaboration, this is a flag to use in an appropriate fashion that's been flown over the county.
Dan, I don't want to stand too close to Senator.
And now I'd like to invite Reserve Deputy Jeff Beatty to come up and join us. Welcome, and I know you're fresh from a little medical care yourself, so I'm so glad you were able to make it today. Are you a bionic man now?
I feel like it.
Yeah, okay, great. So Reserve Deputy Beatty served in the U.S. Air Force 1990 through 1995 and was a reservist from 2002 to 2003, where he played a key role in supporting counterterrorism operations. And he earned a medal, but had never received it. And so I'm very honored to be able to say first, thank you for your service to our country. Thank you to all of our military who have stood up for us overseas, and we need to stand up for them. But in particular today, we're shining the light on you. And this is the medal that's proud to give you. So thank you all for coming today. Senator Wyden and I are really the only senators who hold so many town halls all throughout our home state. And we do it because we really encourage the Oregon way. And what that means is if somebody's speaking that you disagree with, and maybe they even infuriate you with their comments, please still be very respectful and let them make their point. And we'll ask everyone else to do the same thing for anyone who's speaking from any point in the political or ideological spectrum. Does that sound like a good plan? Yes. Okay, great. It's cool that we've maintained something here that's hard to maintain in a world of social media and cable television and some deep disagreements over how our direction the country should head. We also fortunate to have two students who are here today. So one is going to ask the first question, and one will have close us out. And meanwhile, in between, Commissioner, thank you very much. Make sure you mix up those tickets really well so everybody gets a fair chance to ask a question. But we'll start with Sophia. Is it Bracken? Do I have that right? Sophia Reeves. She is at Enterprise 7th grade, junior high. I would never have stood up in a town hall meeting when I was in 7th grade. So you're so brave to do this. Great to have you.
Senator Merkley, thank you for taking time to travel to Eastern Oregon. My name is Sophia Braden. I'm a 7th grader at Enterprise Junior High. How can we work together to ensure that my peers and myself have equal access to academic opportunities programs that students my same age have access to in larger areas, such as Portland, Salem, and Eugene?
Yeah, no, great question, because when you're in a smaller school district, it's just not possible to have as many, if you will, especially in high school, as many optional classes, because there just isn't as many students to be able to provide that. So it becomes down to the core program. I really love our public school system. My dad was a mechanic, and he said, son, if you go through the doors of the schoolhouse and you study hard, you can do just about anything, because we're so fortunate to live in America. And what he really meant is we're so fortunate to live in America that has public schools that give an opportunity to everyone. And the one key piece is a lot of our rural schools have a lot more expenses regarding per student administrative overhead, per student bus, and so it's having a fair state formula to allocate extra money for those extra costs is really key. Now, I'm no longer the state legislature, but when I was there, I was advocating for our less affluent districts to get extra funding for the extra expenses. I also strongly believe from the federal side, there's something called Title I, which is extra funding that goes to schools that are less affluent communities, as our rural communities tend to be, and have things like Title II that helps with teacher training, etc. So I'm going to keep fighting for the maximum amount of resources, but also it's important to help our students understand the transition from public school to college, if college is the right track for their dream. And so I was the first person in my family history to go to college. Nobody had ever gone. I had nobody in my neighborhood I knew who had gone to college, so we never talked about it. I'm a senior in high school, and I'm like, oh, how am I going to figure this out? There is now a program called TRIO, which started because there were 3 components of the program, and it was about helping students be able to understand better the options that they have as they approach the end of junior and senior year of high school. So I want to continue to see us really emphasize apprenticeships, technical training. One of the biggest needs we have in the state is welding for manufacturing, but if a child's dream involves a path that needs college, we need to make that bridge stronger. So those are a few of the things I'm working on towards your question. Thank you. Okay, so I'm just reading the last 3 numbers on the right of each ticket. If nobody raises their hand on these, just wave your arm when we get, and we'll get a microphone to you. If nobody raises their hand, we'll just go quickly to the next 3. These are 328 and 327 and 330. Those are awfully close together, so make sure you mix those up. I don't want anyone to feel they're disadvantaged because they got here earlier or late. Anybody in those 3? And if you could start with your number and your name, please.
This is 328.
Thank you.
My name is Jean Grandy. I'm a retired 25-year resident of this county. And I don't have a question. What I'd like to do is to thank you and Senator White for representing us. I think you do a great job.
Well, thank you very much. Never interrupt somebody if they're saying something nice to you. 327 or 330? Okay, we'll keep going. 309, 322, and 305.
309.
309, right?
Yay. Okay, my name is Rich Wanschneider. My knees are too crappy to stand up. But we just had a big healthcare meeting with the three people who were up here. And one of the questions that came up is, former Governor Kitzhaber was interviewed recently, and he said, if the country would adopt the Oregon plan, the Oregon Health Plan, they could save a hell of a pile of money with Medicaid. And I'm going to make that case. And I wonder if that case is viable at all, if you're working on it, or what's happening there.
Yes, so basically what he's talking about are coordinated care community structure here in Oregon. And Oregon took a big risk. And they borrowed a big sum to transition to the CCO model. And I remember talking to the governor at the time going, if this doesn't work, we're in a hell of a spot because we're going to owe all this money back. But it was paid back and we lowered costs, which meant we were able to expand some services. Plus we did a really good job on Medicaid expansion. We are the highest percent of Medicaid expansion in the country, signing people up. And basically 14 states have started to follow our CCO model, so it is no longer just Oregon. And what I've been working on is right now, to follow that model, you need a waiver, which can be problematic if the feds don't like what the state's proposing. So what I'm trying to do is say a state has the right to do the CCO model with appropriate side guards, because there's been concern that if they design something that doesn't serve people very well, that would be a downgrade, and we don't want a downgrade. We want a more cost-effective, coordinated model. You know, and the governor liked to talk about how you need to do things sometimes like the best healthcare, sometimes a window air conditioner, because for a family that's suffering in a house that's during a heat stroke, people die, you know. And so it's a more holistic vision being brought together, and it's worked pretty well. It's one of those things we're so proud of in Oregon, and others are, you know, the ultimate compliment is emulation. But we're trying to make it easier for people to emulate that. But let me expand slightly from your question, and that, because we're talking Medicaid, Oregon Health Plan. I am terrified about the House of Representatives possibly doing an $880 billion cut to Medicaid. If Medicaid in our state, Oregon State Plan, it's not just less affluent citizens, it's 40% of our citizens in rural Oregon. It's also highly important program to veterans. It is paying for most of the addiction recovery programs we have. It's key for those people on disabilities. Our seniors who are in nursing homes, normally paid for by Medicaid. And our rural clinics and our rural hospitals, their finances would collapse if we lost even a good portion of the Medicaid program. And so I'm fighting to make sure that that effort to, well, greatly diminish or possibly destroy Medicaid cannot happen. We cannot let that happen. .322 or 305? Yes, right here.
Right here.
What number do you want?
I'm 322.
Thank you.
My name is Amy Sullivan. I live in Enterprise. I'm wondering what you and your colleagues in Washington are doing to ensure protections, environmental protections for our public lands, as that's such an important part of our economy and our way of life here in rural Oregon.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about your question, and I'm thinking about the things I'm worried about right now. One of the things I'm worried about are categorical exemptions that essentially wipe out all the environmental protections. And so that is a risk. It's not a question of improving them, it's a question of losing them completely. I'm really worried about the loss of our Forest Service and BLM personnel, who are essential to planning good ecological work in our forests, but also good, well-designed logging plan. well-designed forest management to reduce the risk of fire, well-designed opportunities for recreation in our forests, well-designed plan to keep the roads so that we can actually get to places in forests that we really love. Some of us for camping, some for picking berries and mushrooms, some for just the forest is our place of worship. I mean, so that is a huge risk right now. And we've already suffered a whole lot of people being fired, and then many were rehired because the firing was done illegally, but they may now be RIFed, reduction in force, which is a legal process for diminishment. I'm really worried about not having the personnel hired for the fire season and for the tourist summer season. So I'm more trying to defend what we have right now against things getting worse. I'm also concerned about the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, that does a lot of the permit approvals. If their personnel are greatly reduced, and it looks like they might well be, it means everything gets frozen, and you can't even get a project approved to go do it because there's no one there to review it, make the decision, say yes, so you can go forward. So I know that's maybe not the answer you were looking for, but right now I'm kind of wanting to defend and keep the right balance between the forests as they're key to our rural economy and a steady supply of logs, because without those we don't have the mill. Without the mill you can't do forest management. I mean, plus good paying jobs. You know, I come from, my dad was a millwright, and I saw that mill go out of action. It had a profound impact on our family and on the community. And but now we're down to so many fewer mills. Any given mill we lose is a big, huge loss, and we got to do everything we can to prevent it. So that's a few thoughts on that. Thank you. Did we have 305? Yes. And on deck, I'll read the next three just to be ready: 290. 065 and 284.
305, Craig Pesci Strobel. I'm a retired United Methodist pastor, lived here for several years. I'm one of probably many people in here who are on Social Security. And we all know that that's our money. It's not the government's money. It's money that we paid into that. And so I'm trying to figure out how it can be that there would be people in Congress and in the administration that think that they can grab that money and deny it to us, that there's even talk in consideration of that. So my question is, what strategies are being developed to ensure that all of us on Social Security continue to receive what is rightfully ours? Thank you.
Yeah, so let me give you kind of, I think, what the good news is and what the bad news is. So the good news is the trust fund still has a robust supply of funds that can take us about a decade out. But at that point, if we have not increased the premiums for paying into the trust fund, then we would only be able to put out about 75% of the current formula. So we have got to fix the premium. And I'll back up a little bit. A few years ago, I took all the different think tank ideas on how to strengthen the Social Security Trust Fund, and I did workshops in various parts of the state. And at every table, people would come up with their answer. They'd share it with everybody in the room. And virtually every table at every workshop said the same thing, which is increase the amount of income subject to premiums so we can strengthen the fund now and never hit that crisis point a decade out. We should be on the floor of the Senate right now passing a bill to strengthen the input to the Social Security Fund. Waiting until the last minute makes it much harder to fix it. So I guess the good news is we're not on the verge of being out of funds, but it is on the horizon. If we do the fix that I was laying out that people largely chose, we have a 70-year horizon of solvency when they run the demographic numbers. So that's about as good as it gets. The bad news is that the service component of Social Security is currently being taken apart. Local offices are being closed. The ability to reach people by phone is being diminished. There was a moment last week where it appeared like the ability to ask questions by sending an email had been stopped. I didn't get full confirmation of that, but it's in the same vein. Then I heard today at the last town hall that a woman had tried to get onto her Social Security account and got a sign that said you have to use ID.me. Has anybody had that experience? Several. ID.me is a private company. A private company that uses facial recognition to verify who you are. It means they would have your Social Security number, all sorts of other details, including your copies of photographs of your driver's license or your passport, plus facial recognition, all of that in a system, and no system is hack-proof. The loss of that data would be massively disastrous. And I also don't want a national system dependent on Face ID, because here's the thing. A government that becomes authoritarian, that has a massive database of Face ID, can use it to control their citizens, track them everywhere they go. I sound a little crazy on this, I know, but stick with me for a moment. China, leading country in the world doing this, they have enslaved 1 million people, the Uyghurs, with facial ID being a major component. They have sold this system to 8 other countries that have used it to help suppress dissent in their countries. I do not think having our federal government, not because they're blue or red, any government should have that type of control, because it's so expensive and easy to have cameras everywhere with the same software tracking where people are. I'm just very worried that this is a massive risk to our privacy and a massive risk to our freedom. So, I've waged a little war against facial ID at the airports for domestic travel. Not when people come into the country, but at the airports. So when you go to the airport, you have the right to simply use your driver's license. And the person will say, step in front of the camera. All you have to say is, thank you, don't step in front of the camera, just say, I'm choosing to opt out, and hand them your driver's license. And if they're well trained, and most of them are starting to get this training, they'll say, okay, great, thank you. Can you give me both your boarding pass and your ID? And it takes no more time. It's totally legal for you to do this. There's starting to be signs around the country because I've been protesting, basically giving the very hard time to TSA over the fact that this was all, there's one clause back a long time ago that said TSA is authorized to experiment with using biometric information for boarding planes. At that time, it was a fingerprint. So this whole national, they're doing 440 more airports. In other words, every airport is going to have facial ID, but I'm trying to fight to guarantee that you still have the ability to opt out. And so I'm just saying the world's technology is changing fast. Congress never held a single debate over this. I'm teaming up with who? Ted Cruz to work and try to protect our privacy. Ted Cruz and me like this. 290, 065, and 284.
Well, Social Security, I'm going to be, I can get on Social Security in January. Do I have to start applying now? How does that work if we can't even get through to, how do we get through?
I would say yes. Visit the local office before it's gone, or call up now before they eliminate the ability to call, and say, what do I have to do? If they say you can fill out forms now, fill them out now, send them in, absolutely.
Okay.
When one applies in an untimely fashion, normally they will say, if they start a couple months after you were asked them to start, they will send you back checks to fill in that space. If they're working well, but that takes people to say, okay, yes, we need to send these 2 checks extra because that person was supposed to start getting their checks in January and we got delayed and we didn't process it. Now it's March, we've got to send a back check. So we're expecting to have a lot more citizen complaints. I just was reached out to by a woman here in Oregon who got a letter saying, with no explanation, saying next month we're canceling your Social Security payments. And so my constituent services team is with her support, at her request, we are contacting Social Security to say, what the hell? And try to make sure that there's not an interruption in support. You know, half of the recipients of Social Security depend on it for 90 to 100% of their income. You lose a month or 2, well, how do you pay for the medicine, the rent, or maybe your home mortgage? I mean, a lot of people are, you know, hey, we're month to month, half of our retirees are in that situation. So we need Social Security to be highly organized or a lot of people get hurt. Okay, let's see, I'm not sure what your number was.
It was 290.
290? So did we have 065 or 284? Right here and right here.
My name's Sarah. My question kind of encompasses everything you were just talking about with Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and the Department of Education. I'm Gen X. My mom is in a retirement home. My father-in-law receives care. I have children in college and children on OHP. With the executive orders and then our current administration ignoring the courts, suspending executive orders, how are you guys fighting against all of that going away? Because if all of that went away, my generation can't afford to support our parents and our children.
So you touched on the question of the administration. I think you say ignoring the law. Well, just an example. The law says you can't fire an inspector general without 30 days of notice. You can't fire unless there's cause for fraud, abuse, or something of that nature, malfeasance. But straight within days of being inaugurated, President Trump fired 17 inspector generals without notice and without cause. And okay, well, what? It's like, wait, isn't the law clear on this? And his director of Office of Management Budget, who also was the architect of Project 2025, said to me when he was being considered, and I led the fight for him not to be confirmed, because I considered him to be the most dangerous man. Because he said, I don't care what the law says, and I don't agree with the Supreme Court on their constitutional rulings, so we're going to do what we want. And I'm like, whoa! I mean, if you lose a We the People republic, if you have an acquiescent legislature, you have a court that is helping increase executive power, and you have an aggressive executive. And right now we have all three. So we are, I can't even believe I'm up here saying this, but we are in a constitutional crisis. Not a month from now, not 6, we are right now, because we have the administration routinely breaking the law and routinely breaking the separation of powers. 2 examples of the separation of powers. One being that the courts have been very clear, the Constitution gives the power first to Congress, the President cannot impound funds. All kinds of funds have been impounded. Second of all, that it is Congress by law, which of course the law has to be signed by a former president, designs the executive branch. The president doesn't get to redesign it himself, but he is redesigning it himself. For example, shutting down AID and Assistance in International Development. That program has been a source of incredible amounts of connections, soft power for the United States, and it has made people look at the United States as the light on the hill that is going to help with education and clean water and basic health care overseas. And it's been so quickly disrupted with hundreds and hundreds of contracts and basically almost everybody fired, that disruption, well, it's estimated tens of thousands or maybe hundreds of thousands of people may die around the world as a result of that interruption. That is both breaking the law and the Constitution. So the courts are the main remedy in our system of the balance, and they have been many challenges filed and many court rulings said you can't do things. Most of them the administration is adhering to. The most prominent example of maybe not doing so was continuing the plane flights to El Salvador. But also, the folks who were put on that plane did not receive due process. And someone might say, oh, come on, Jeff. They're suspected gang members. You want to have due process for gang members? Hell yes, because you know what? Due process is what protects our freedom everywhere. If there's not due process, you could be stopped and arrested and put on a flight. So it is a key part of our privacy and our freedom for the government to have. They can't just grab you off the street. So let me tell you why I'm worried about the Supreme Court. Last year, they had a case that I initially thought would be 9-0 hell no case, which was, is the president immune from criminal prosecution for committing a crime? And the Supreme Court, to my shock, said, yeah, the president's immune. The president's above the law as long as it's documented as a governmental act. So the president could send a signed document, say, you are a risk to our nation, I'll put this crudely, send a team to arrest you and throw you in prison, or kill you, and the Supreme Court has said the president has not committed a crime in doing that. And then, take and combine that with the power of pardon. So what President Trump said is, I'm pardoning everybody who assaulted the Capitol on January 6th. He has sent a message that if people doing his bidding break the law, he's prepared to pardon them. So the Supreme Court said the president's immune. The president's saying everybody who works for me is immune. Now we have a whole executive branch that thinks it's immune from the law. That's why all these laws are being broken. That is, we are en route to losing our separation of powers and our checks and balances. That's why I'm very worried. I'm hoping the court will come through for us and that they'll look at what's happening and go, oh my goodness, we didn't want this. But they found invisible ink. There is nowhere in the Constitution that says the president's above the law. They said in their ruling, we think it's a good idea for the president not to have to worry about breaking the law, so we're going to give the president immunity. It's not the role of the Supreme Court to write policy. It's not their role to create new clauses in the Constitution. We have a constitutional amendment process. What they did was to so violate their responsibility under our checks and balances. That's why I'm so worried about the Supreme Court. So those of us in Congress, on both sides of the aisle, we need to do everything we can to stand by the checks and balances. I'm looking forward to partnerships from across the aisle to stand up on multiple of these issues together. I had a previous town hall last weekend in Grant County where a person said, aren't you worried about martial law? I basically said, no, but then I've been thinking about that all week. No. Well, the reason I said that is I can't imagine martial law is when the military backs up setting aside civilian government. I can't see our military doing that. So I don't think we'll end up in that situation, but we could end up with us, and are at this moment, on the verge of what's referred to as a strongman government, strongman state, or authoritarian state. And we've seen it happen in republics around the world. When the separation of powers weakens, Congress becomes subservient, the court has been helpful to increase executive power, and all of a sudden you have something that looks more like Venezuela, or several other, or Hungary, where you technically have the structure of a republic, but in practice you have an authoritarian state. We cannot let that happen. It's why I'm so glad you're all turning out to fight for the future of our country. Did we have one more in that group? Yes.
I'm 284, Keith Graham, retired physician. I was in private practice for 38 years and I was a public health officer in Union County for 10 or 15 years. I have paid attention every day since inauguration to the destruction of our cultural institutions, our biomedical research, attacks on universities, attacks on due process, the CDC, NIH, stripping down of the VA. It seems overwhelming to me. I agree with almost everything that you've said. My question is, in the face of a relatively supine Congress and a somewhat irrelevant Supreme Court, what can we, the people, do to stop all of this or slow it down?
The first temptation is to curl up on your couch. You cannot do that. And none of you are because you're here. The second thing is you must absolutely be engaged in holding your electeds accountable at every level. Congress is most important factor here. And so if that means letters, yes. It means phone calls, yes. It means protests outside a congressional office, yes. It means coming to my town hall and giving me a hard time, yes. In every possible way you can. And third, by oneself, it's depressing and ineffective. So join an affinity group which is energizing and en masse effective. So be engaged in every possible way, because what will happen, I hope, is my colleagues will say, we wanted to give our president a chance. We're pretty disturbed by some of these directions. And now folks back home are saying, we have to stop certain things. We have to stop the raid on Medicaid. We have to stop 70,000 people from being fired from the Veterans Administration. I mean, there's already 66,000 vacancies in veterans. How are we going to get medical care and our benefits to our veterans without those individuals? We have to convey to the president that it is absolutely unacceptable to have this philosophy that it's just okay to violate the laws. I wish letter writing to the courts would help, because the courts have to play a huge role here. I think, but in our system, the most effective thing is pressure on your electeds. The most effective way to do that is by joining others and working together to create that pressure.
Thank you.
No couch, hold us accountable, join us in the And I must say, like I had 2 weeks ago, one day I had 3,000 phone calls. Now, I think my team is probably the best on Capitol Hill. We try to answer every call as it comes in, and if it does go to voicemail, we try to get it off quickly, and I get a daily tally, but there was no way we could possibly keep up. And so my team, we had extra members, extra hours, trying to get everything downloaded, just get ready for the next day. Same thing, massive amounts of email letters, which I get tallied, and look at how many of you are showing up here in my town. Last year, an election year, I had in my 36 town halls, about 3,500 people total come in person. Right now, we're around 13,000, and I got a bunch of town halls to come. So, 319, 323, 307. Yes. Which number did you have?
307.
Thank you.
My name is Beth Estock. I live here in Joseph. You inspire us to say what we can do. Now the question's right back at you. And what are the strategies that the Democrats are using to, it's like there's a fire, multiple fires every day, but there has to be a bigger strategy to say, okay, this is how we're going to approach this. And I'd love to hear what that is.
Okay, so I can't speak for the vast world of a national party, and I really try not to in town halls anyway, because I'm here to represent everybody no matter what party they're part of. But I will tell you the strategies that I'm encouraging my colleagues to use and using. One is whenever we feel somebody is unqualified, that we hold the maximum amount of hearings and the maximum amount of time on the floor allowed under our rules to examine that. Russell Vogt, because I thought he was so dangerous, we went through the night. We went a full 30 hours of debate on somebody that most of you probably never heard of. But that's what we were doing. We're saying this matters, to have the architect of this administration who believes the law and the Constitution don't matter, they can be reinterpreted by the president. Not acceptable. So that's one piece, is maximum exposure of things that seem out of sync with our republic and our checks and balances. Second of all, we're responding to each and every problem that's occurring back here in Oregon. I'll give you an example. I got a call saying that some of our Head Starts are going to have to start laying people off yesterday. I got this about a week ago, so I copied that information to my team and said, let's hit every possible place. Let's get others to do so. And on Thursday of this last week, Head Start funding was turned back on. And so, yay. We made a major coordinated protest over the illegal firing, what we consider to be illegal firing, of our first service members. The courts then said, yes, it's illegal. The combination of Congress, or many members of Congress, and the court, is those folks are rehired. You know, I called a woman on the way here who had shared her story, and I used her story to help create pressure. And I said, Bailey, did you get rehired? And she said, I accepted a different job after I was in limbo, and 2 hours later I got an email saying I was rehired by the Forest Service. She said, well, I'm sticking with the other job. And, you know, does anyone want to go back to some place where they're being treated? And Russell Vogt's commentary was, I want our federal workers to be traumatized. Well, you know, I want our federal workers who are out there trying to deliver in a cost-effective way, who might be able to get better pay in a private industry, to be celebrated and thanked for the work that they are doing for us. And I'm not saying that there aren't a careful review might well find efficiencies, might well find that something in this department's been duplicating something in another department. So we should work together to have those careful reviews and find those efficiencies. This is not efficiency, this is inefficiency. In fact, we have all kinds of people being paid now on administrative leave, being paid and not doing any work. And when I think about the chaos that ensues from that, it's the opposite of the argument over this is about efficiency. It's something entirely else, and it's hurting us. I'm getting the sign. Are we running out of time?
Don't forget you have one more student.
I will not forget that. Are we close to, are we?
Can we do 2 quick ones?
Okay, we will go and turn to Alba, and then if we have time, we'll keep going with more questions. Alba Braden in 9th grade at Wallowa High School. Welcome, Alba.
Thank you for taking the time to visit with us today. My question is, how can we work together to ensure a strong economy in Eastern Oregon that facilitates affordable costs of living and family wage job opportunities so that my generation can live and raise a family in Wallowa County versus needing to leave to pursue opportunities elsewhere?
Okay, so we have a couple groups that specialize in rural economic development. The Economic Development Agency, they're folks I consult all the time after the town halls and say, you know, what can you do to help with the infrastructure that creates a better manufacturing environment or employment environment in rural Oregon? What kind of infrastructure do we need to fight for in the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act that helps? Is it a bridge crossing? Is it a better highway? Is it broadband has been essential to having more people working in rural areas? In fact, we've had a lot of people who still do work that's kind of office work, but they're doing it with a view of these beautiful mountains. That's pretty cool. I'm a little worried about Trump saying all the federal workers have to be back in the office, because that means we're going to lose some people out of rural Oregon who are actually doing a very good job and using Zoom land, if you will, to communicate. The Oregon, Business Oregon is very much about trying to help in the rural areas. There is a challenge, and the challenge we have is the further one is from railroads and ports and consumers, the more expensive it can sometimes be to make a product. And if a company wants to come in and they're going to bring, let's say, a modest size 25 or 50 people, where's the housing for those folks? And so we get caught in this dilemma. So development of housing, helping rural communities develop housing, is a very important part of this component as well. Now let me tell you what we shouldn't do. We should not have tariffs that damage our rural agriculture or rural manufacturing. Well, I opposed the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and so did candidate Trump before his first time, and I agreed with him that making it easier for China was going to undercut manufacturing in the U.S. A steady, secure tariffs can be used in a fashion to say long-term investments in American factories make sense. But you know what we have with the up and down tariffs right now? We're not sending a message to the business community to build factories in America. We're sending a message that we are in chaos, and so don't make any investment decisions at all about America. And meanwhile, if they need to add another plant, they might add it someplace they think is more stable right now and do the opposite of what we want. Plus, we have to remember that when we put a tariff on a country, they may put retaliatory tariffs on us. So you have to be willing to negotiate a solution to this. It's not like you can just dictate what happens. And that companies that make things, if they use components that come from overseas, and those are then more expensive, then their product is more expensive when they make it in America. Now it may be harder to sell it to the world, as opposed to that same product being made in the country that didn't put it. So yes, there are ways that steady tariffs in regard to places like China that have very low wages and very low environmental laws can balance the playing field and encourage manufacturing in America. But what's going on right now is just absolutely doing damage. And I'm hearing all over the state from the ag world, we are either directly affected in a negative way, or we're worried retaliatory tariffs will affect us in a negative way. So a lot of nervousness, and this is chaos. And by the way, we had an extraordinary event last week. When people were selling off stocks, they often buy treasury bonds. But people fled the treasury bond market at the same time they were fleeing stocks. That is a vote of no confidence in the America. We have been a reserve currency for the world. People said the most stable, best place to make sure your money is safe, park it in U.S. treasury bonds. When people start fleeing the treasury bond market, what that means is that interest rates go up. And when interest rates go up, that means the cost of a home mortgage goes up. That means the cost of a car payment goes up. It means that companies that want to borrow money to expand are not sure that they can do so because it costs a little more to get that business loan. And let me say one more thing about housing. And that is, we have got to get the hedge funds out of the housing market. Family housing. So I introduced the bill when I started to see what was happening with hedge funds buying up single-family housing across America. I said, you know, this is really bad because it means that homeownership is going to become much more expensive and much harder, and rents are going to go up as well. And we've seen that double impact. So my bill, Hope for Homeownership, gives basically over a 10-year plan to hedge funds, not in the apartment market, but in the single-family housing market. They have to do a 10-year exit with 10% of their homes sold every year. And sold to whom? Not to some subsidiary they create, but have to be sold to families who do not currently own a home. That would do a whole lot for homeowners. 2 minutes, okay. 319. The final door prize goes to 323. Oh, they're right here, right? 319, okay. Please close us out.
And I'm not going to stand up, I've got bad knees
No,
too.
no need to.
Old lady. My name is Ellen Nesbitt. I thank you for you and for Senator Wyden making the effort to come to all the town halls that you do and listening to us and acting on it. I'm in a situation now where we are kind of a solid middle-class family. My husband is now in memory care in Walla Walla. He cannot be here because there's no place locally. That's 100-mile one way. We make that trip at least once a week to visit. He was a civil servant. He worked for the Forest Service for 35 years. He has a decent retirement. He was also a National Guard Reserve officer. He has a small retirement from that. We do have a teeny tiny Social Security. I'm in the process of trying to sell our home so we have enough money for his care. It's expensive. That's my story.
Well, first of all, our hearts go out to you. The memory issues, dementia, it's a terrible blight. And so probably most of us in this room have some loved one who has gone through this. I have. And so we just know the heartache that goes with having your partner in that situation. Thank you for sharing your story about the challenge. The fact that we're now at the point where his care might require selling your house puts you at much more financial risk, I'm assuming. So that's a stress for sure. I will say a lot of the memory care in America is done by Medicaid, but that requires having your assets drop down to almost nothing before that support can occur. I know you didn't pose it as a question, and I'm not sure if I would have an answer if you had posed it as a question, but let's at least maintain the retirement and health care programs we have and not let them get torn apart over this coming 2 years, because so many more families will experience the financial and healthcare stress that you're experiencing right now. I do have constituent service team that might be able to brainstorm to see if there's any additional way under current law we could help, or if you have any ideas, we'll be glad to follow up with you.
I will say we're okay for now. Not in the poorhouse. We, thought of ourselves as a good middle-class family. I was asked recently, why didn't you take out long-term care insurance? Yes. Well, at the time that we could have done that, we had children in college. So, I mean, there you go.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So, this may sound really silly, and I've mentioned it to some friends. There's a tax thing that you have, a federal tax that I think it's called Earn for Child Care. Earned credit for child care. I know this is pie in the sky, but it could be earned credit for elder care.
I'm going to have my team follow up with you. I don't know if I introduced Jessica. I don't think I did. Jessica Keys, my field rep. And Jessica, if you can pass on a card and follow up. There is a program that provides compensation for elder care, but I'm not sure just what the sideboard's on it. So let me check on that, and I'll get brushed up on that piece, and we'll also provide the details to you. Okay, you're welcome. Folks, I'm going to just close by again thanking you, but also encouraging you to take an occasional break from the weight that many of us feel right now. And so here's a way to do it. I put together this book that you can, if you didn't get one on the way in, you can get on the way out, this Oregon Treasures Quest. Every county has cool things going on in it. And I wanted, because I go to every county every year, I kept going, oh wow, this is really cool. We should tell people about that. So you'll see a page for Wallowa County, and we spotlighted Wallowa Lake, but also 5 other things that are neat. None of them are for-profits. I guess I'm the first senator to ever do something like this, so I'd have long conversations with the ethics committee about what am I allowed to put in, nothing that is commercial enterprise. And fortunately, we have so many cool public things in our state. But I encourage you for your own energy, and I mentioned, off the couch, hold your electeds accountable, and find an affinity group. But I have a 4th suggestion, which is for take a long weekend or a week, turn off your phone, turn off the news, don't read a newspaper, and take this book and go see some things around our state you've never seen. We are blessed to live in the best, coolest paradise anywhere on this planet, state of Oregon. And if you go to 10 counties and send us selfies with some location in each of those 10 counties that's in this book, you're invited to a Treasures Quest party in November. We had our first annual Treasures Quest party last year. We'll have our second annual one this year. And it's just a chance to say, okay, sometimes we just need to unplug and re-energize so we can come back to the battle of saving our republic. God bless you all, and I'll see you down the road. I'm going to turn it back over.
Thank you all for attending. So, a few of you know that the commissioners had a town hall meeting, and following after Senator Merkley's lead on that, we're going to continue to have those town hall meetings. I'd hope you pay attention to the county website and I shouldn't say Chieftain anymore, but the Eastern Oregon Regional Newspaper, and we'd like to see you all there. If we don't have any big issues, but we want to keep you abreast of what's going on. We want to hear from you guys what you think the commissioners should be doing as well. So feel free to call Lisa or I. We're asking you not to call Susan. She's in treatment. But if you have any needs on anything, we don't have all the answers on this federal thing. We have virtually no answers on the federal thing. So, but we do welcome you to call us. My cell phone number's published. Everybody has it that I've worked for. So, but we do want to be a little more in touch with the public, and we want you guys to take the time to talk to us if you have a need.
Thank you, John.
So we haven't set a date for the next meeting. We were thinking maybe quarterly would be enough. If you guys want to do a monthly, I don't think we have enough news to give you every month, but quarterly, so maybe in April or June, or May or June, excuse me. So, but get some questions, and you're always welcome to join us at the commissioner meetings. You can get on Zoom. We can interact with you on Zoom, and you're more than welcome to come. Thank you.